Welcome to everyone. Thanks for your participation in the third session of the training, the Public Employment Service role in overcoming the COVID-19 crisis and the future of work, organized by the Ilo Moscow office with support of the project Partnership for Youth Employment in the Commonwealth of Independent States. The PES online training look forward to improving national employment promotion programs, labor market institution, and employment service to facilitate the transition from immediate crisis response to the COVID-19 pandemic toward a job-rich or employment-intensive economic recovery. The main objective is to support the public employment service staff to design and deliver quality active labor market programs and support service to job seekers and employers. The online training will help to establish a professional community of practice of the public employment service network in the Commonwealth of Independent State member countries. Please remind that the Ilo Moscow office training offers simultaneous translation between English and Russian. You can select the language in the bottom of your screen. You have also the possibility of writing question and comment in the internet anytime. You will find the space for message in the right column of your screen. Your question will be responded by the expert after the presentation. Today, we are introducing the module 3, creating inclusive supporting disadvantaged group with a special focus on young people. Remember that the online training is composed of a series of 5 webinars supported by interactive learning methodologies, institutional self-assessment, and peer-to-peer exchange. Each module is prepared with a set of pre-reading materials and surveys, followed by a webinar or online training session as today. The session today is a response to the Ilo Centenary Declaration call for inclusive labor markets with equal opportunities on accessing productive employment and decent work for all. The Public Employment Service is the only national institution with a clear mandate, resource, tools, and expertise to facilitate and support labor market transition from unemployment or inactivity to employment, from school or family responsibilities to work. Nevertheless, the Public Employment Service cannot deliver the service and accomplish this mandate without developing the professional skill of their own staff. The Public Employment Service staff need to have access to training to develop professional skill for addressing the need of different disadvantaged groups. This might help the PES staff, particularly from line counselor, to think beyond the stereotype about vulnerable group and help to reinforce the skill potential of each individual job seeker. It is vitally important to create the condition for well-informed PES staff, frontline counselor, for a successful implementation and monitoring of targeted employment support programs. The PES staff should receive training and information so that they understand why the Public Employment Service need to work with disadvantaged groups and wider local, regional, and national economic. Today, we will have the opportunity to learn about all these issues and to respond very important questions. What skills are needed by the PES staff who work with disadvantaged groups? How the Public Employment Service can plan and deliver different service and active labor market programs, and how they can be used for different vulnerable groups. How to reach out young people, and how to develop strategic partnership for employment promotion to increase the impact of the Public Employment Service program. Remember, or keep in mind that these training sessions are based in the manual Public Employment Service and the Future of Work. developed as part of the Ilo technical cooperation with the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection of the Russian Federation, which is leading a federal reform of the public employment service. It includes learning module developed during the interregional and regional meeting in the Russian Federation, and discussion and best practice identified in the Commonwealth of Independent States Annual Conference on Youth Employment, and the training for the public employment service staff delivered by the International Labour Organization in Azerbaijan and Uzbekistan. You can use each chapter of the Public Employment Service Manual, tips, good practice, international standard, and the checklist for self-assessment for your own professional purpose. Furthermore, we expect that during the training, you strengthen your skill on delivering internet service, conducting teamwork sessions and meetings through internet platform. This is the reason why today you will have time to have working group discussion using the Zoom platform. Finally, the Ilo Moscow office online training benefit as well of a number of international experts invited to provide additional insight to our regional understanding of the country response. We have today a special guest or speaker, Ms. Claire Liebman, international expert from Belgium, and Mr. Jen Siversen, Job Center Manager in the municipality of Copenhagen, Denmark. The main topic will be conducted by Ms. Ruth Santos-Bryan and Ms. Helen Metcalf, international experts who were in charge of writing the Public Employment Service and the Future of Work Manual. And the opening speech will be delivered by Mr. Mikhail Pushkin, International Labour Organization Senior Employment Specialist for Eastern Europe and Central Asia. Mikhail, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ramiro. Доброе утро, добрый день, уважаемые коллеги. От имени Бюро МОД в Восточной Европе и Центральной Азии я хотел бы также тепло вас поприветствовать представителей министерств профильных, Министерств труда, социальной защиты, представителей служб занятости, представителей социальных партнеров. Мне кажется, очень важно, что социальные партнеры присутствуют и участвуют в дискуссиях на наших вебинарах, посвященных теме продвижения занятости и укреплению государственных служб занятости, особенно в контексте пандемии. Хотел бы также приветствовать наших международных экспертов. Уже было сказано, сегодня из Бельгии, из Дании. И наши постоянные эксперты Рут Сантос, Хелен Меткалф, моих коллег из Бюро МОД в Москве. Вы знаете, уважаемые коллеги, никогда наша организация не инвестировала так много в работу со службами занятости. Никогда наши тренинги, никогда наши мероприятия, посвященные службе занятости и для сотрудников служб занятости, не были такими частыми и такими интенсивными. Причина, я думаю, понятна. Причина в том, что на памяти ни одного поколения, наверное, 2-3 поколений, не было такого глубокого и серьезного экономического кризиса, кризиса рынка труда, который мы наблюдаем сегодня. Буквально в начале октября мы наблюдали улучшение ситуации на рынке труда в Соединенных Штатах Америки. Мы наблюдали небольшое падение безработицы, которая до этого регистрировалась рекордных уровней в Соединенных Штатах. В начале октября мы видели небольшое падение безработицы. В Европейском Союзе мы также наблюдали определенную стабилизацию с уровнем безработицы буквально несколько недель назад. И это, в общем-то, совпадало с тем осторожным оптимизмом, который был в связи с тем, что мы видели ослабление пандемии, мы видели оживление рынков труда, оживление экономики летом и в начале осени. Но сейчас мы с вами опять находимся в ухудшающейся ситуации. И мы опять видим рост безработицы, мы это наблюдаем уже и в Соединенных Штатах, мы это наблюдаем уже в Евросоюзе, мы это наблюдаем в других регионах. Рынок труда реагирует очень быстро на ухудшение экономической ситуации, потому что мы видим начинающиеся локдауны, мы видим начинающиеся ограничения. И хотя мы видим буквально в последние дни, что правительство пытается балансировать все-таки, так сказать, учет состояния системы здравоохранения и нежелание подвергать ее очередному кризису, и потребности рынка труда, работодателей в сохранении бизнеса. Попытки этого балансирования пока приводят к тому, что многие бизнесы продолжают работать, и в этом отличие нынешней ситуации от ситуации, которая была весной, но мы не знаем, что будет завтра, и мы не знаем, как правительство будет реагировать на дальнейшее ухудшение эпидемиологической ситуации во всем мире. И вы знаете, в центре всего этого, и вот поэтому мы так интенсивно этим занимаемся, мы считаем, должны стоять институты. Мы много можем говорить о положении уязвимых групп на рынке труда, о положении безработных, о положении молодежи, инвалидов, неформально занятых, людей старшего возраста. Мы очень много можем говорить об их положении, о трудности, о том, что им надо помочь, предоставить какие-то услуги, предоставить какую-то помощь. Но мы с вами не сможем системно оказать эту помощь, если у нас не будет сильного института, который бы эту помощь осуществлял. А для этого этот институт должен быть наделен бюджетными средствами, достаточным количеством сотрудников, которые были бы обучены для работы, в том числе в таких экстремальных условиях, как сейчас. Мы уже говорили раньше, что в целом ряде стран в контексте пандемии, в контексте ухудшающей ситуации на рынке труда сотрудники служб занятости были наделены чрезвычайными полномочиями. И более того, есть примеры стран, где представители других государственных структур могли по декрету правительства быть срочно переведены для того, чтобы помогать работе службы занятости, вот именно работать с тем потоком безработных, который, конечно, усилился и увеличился в связи с пандемией. С другой стороны, это хорошо. И это тоже тенденция, которую мы видим. Люди стали больше обращаться в службу занятости. И это очень важно, потому что улучшаются и более таргетированными становятся услуги. В ряде стран появляется или повышается пособие по безработице, то есть у людей появляется больше инцентивов, больше мотивации для того, чтобы обращаться в службу занятости. И при этом не надо забывать вот об этом очень интересном дуализме работы служб занятости. Потому что она все-таки работает не только с людьми, которые теряют работу или которые находятся под угрозой потери работы, скажем так, с безработными, так грубо обрисовывая эту группу. Служба занятости работает и с работодателями. И в то время как мы ожидаем, что безработный придет в службу занятости, мы не должны ожидать, что к ней придет работодатель, потому что в идеале и в реальности работодатель, на него все-таки работает рынок, свободный рынок, и он там ищет заполнение своих вакансий. И для того, чтобы работодатель узнал о существовании службы занятости, она сама должна быть проактивной, она сама должна идти к работодателю и заявлять о себе, о том, что она существует и какие услуги она работодателю может предоставить. Вот этот дуализм. Но сейчас ситуация поменялась. Сейчас в кризисе находятся вот оба этих кластера. И трудящиеся, которые теряют работу в массовом порядке, или временно, или постоянно, и работодатели, бизнесы. И им тоже сейчас служба занятости может оказать работу, предоставляя определенный, очень такой нацеленный спектр услуг, в частности, по переобучению сотрудников. И целый ряд других. Так что сейчас надо работать активно, восприимчиво, целенаправленно в оба эти направления. Быть действительно в центре тех процессов, которые происходят на рынке труда. Но здесь есть сложности. Буквально на днях, позавчера, у нас было вот такое онлайн-мероприятие посвященная преодолению неформальной занятости, неформальной экономики, по переходу к формальной экономике. Мы очень много говорили. Были тоже трехсторонние участники. Представители министерств, представители социальных партнеров, эксперты международные. Мы очень много говорили о том, какая это большая проблема, какие есть инструменты для того, чтобы преодолевать неформальность. И я вам скажу, никто не упомнил о службе занятости. Никто. Мы должны были сами поднять этот вопрос. Мы должны были сами сказать: друзья, есть служба занятости. Это важнейший институт, который может помочь преодолевать неформальную занятость, в том числе в условиях кризиса, вызванного пандемией. О чем это говорит? Это говорит все-таки о том, что в сознании наших игроков на рынке труда еще нет четкого закрепления того, какую роль может играть и должна играть служба занятости. Для этого мы и работаем, для этого мы и проводим все эти мероприятия, чтобы рассказывать о том, какие инструменты могут быть, какие инструменты должны быть, и как служба занятости должна работать, чтобы действительно оказаться в центре всех этих процессов. Сегодняшняя встреча будет посвящена работе с уязвимыми группами, и я уже эти группы назвал. Это действительно молодежь, чья ситуация в условиях пандемии становится намного хуже, она находится под таким тройным ударом. Многие теряют работу, потому что эта работа часто является первой. Приходится прерывать процесс обучения, и трудно выйти на рынок тем, кто получил обучение. Вот это тройной, кто получил образование профессиональное, тройной удар. Это, конечно, женщины, которых мы тоже считаем уязвимой группой в определенных ситуациях, они таковы являются по условиям труда, по заработной плате, по социальным гарантиям. В очень многих странах это, к сожалению, проблема. Гендерный аспект рынка труда и вовлеченности женщин. Неформально занятые, об этом я только что говорил, и это серьезнейшая проблема в мире. Более 60% людей заняты в неформальной экономике или неформально участвуют в работе. Очень многие бизнесы работают в неформальном секторе, об этом мы очень много говорим. Это люди старшего возраста и так далее. Таких групп несколько. И сегодня полно будем говорить об этом с участием наших экспертов. Я не буду ничего этого, конечно, предвосхищать. Я хотел бы поблагодарить вас за ваш интерес, за ваше участие, за ваше время. Пожелать вам всем хорошей работы сегодня. Спасибо за внимание. Рамиро.
Many thanks, Mikhail, for your introductory remarks and highlighted the importance of the public employment service, but also putting in face that not all the people, stakeholders, are aware or well informed about the activities that the public employment service are developing. And this is the reason why this Ilo Moscow conference are important, because allowed to show the public employment service in action. Now we are going to the main presentation of today, Ruth Santos Bryan and the Public Employment Service, working with vulnerable groups, especially with young people.
Thank you, Ramiro. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. As Ramiro indicated, we're going to provide now an overview of this important subject of the role of PES in creating inclusive labor markets and supporting disadvantaged groups, especially disadvantaged young people. I would like to just provide a very quick overview of what we will be covering as part of this presentation. First of all, we were going to look at how the services for disadvantaged groups, including disadvantaged young people, fit with other services. Then we will focus on how PES can support inclusive labor markets and employment promotion programs for vulnerable groups. And we will also provide some examples of how PES are supporting young people into employment in the COVID-19 crisis. As reminded in the introduction as well, this module is covered in Chapter 5 of the PES manual, and under the title Creating Inclusive Labor Markets. So as we indicated, PES have a very special role and opportunity to really be at the forefront of the delivery of holistic services that support disadvantaged groups. And by providing that targeted support to those in vulnerable positions, the PES can get more people into employment, and this can contribute to really boosting the labor force potential on a local, regional, and national level. When we look at the core PES services, obviously support services for disadvantaged groups it's an important one, and include especially tailored tools and services, collaborative service delivered with partners, train specialist staff, and active labor market programs. And as part of the presentation today, we will try to cover these different aspects in turn. So very important just to move, or as a starting point. So what do we mean? Who are vulnerable groups? And we use this term vulnerable or disadvantaged groups to refer to those who do not have an equal footing in the labor market when compared to the rest of the population. Often these groups have to overcome several barriers that affect the ability to seek, find, and maintain work. And very often those barriers can include non-employment related challenges. We have mentioned, and Mihail has mentioned some of those groups, in particularly affected by the COVID-19 crisis, like young people, women, migrants. There's a long list of different groups that can be classified as vulnerable groups. Today, the webinar will really focus on disadvantaged young people. As we know, young people have been the most affected by the current crisis, and the Ilo global report in the summer mentioned that 1 in 6 people across 112 countries aged under 24 had stopped working in the pandemic, and more than 70% of the students have seen closures of schools, universities, and training centers. The reality is that there's a risk for young people under the current circumstances to almost become the lockdown generation, and some of those issues can create an scarring for life. So that's the importance of having a focus on young people, and especially disadvantaged young people. Even the young people who were in employment, prior to the crisis, many of them were in precarious employment, or working in sectors that were most affected, as we know, the retail and the hospitality sector. So we will now just move and focus on a very important aspect that is about how to invest in staff, so they are a very valuable resource and have the knowledge to develop this, development and delivery these service programs and measures targeting disadvantaged group. So as indicated previously, and it's very important to provide the staff with the information and the training on the needs of different disadvantaged groups. It's really important because it creates not only the conditions for well-informed frontline counseling, but also appropriate support and well-designed programs and measures. And this is very important because it will really contribute to creating those conditions for an inclusive labor market, in which all the workers are able to contribute to a labor market, and those who are disadvantaged are given support to overcome any barriers. PES staff should receive training and information so they understand, first of all, why PES need to work with disadvantaged groups, and how this links with wider local, regional, and national economic policies. What disadvantaged groups can offer to enterprises as an added value in comparison to other types of job seekers. And this is really important because, again, it's supporting those job seekers from disadvantaged backgrounds, but also supporting employers to hire and retain those job seekers. And for that, it is important to understand how to make the case and how to support the enterprises as well. And also understand the differences between disadvantaged groups and what different barriers might face in accessing labor market, could be access to transport, language barriers, childcare. And this is also very important because this will allow the frontline staff to choose as part of the menu of options what will be the most appropriate support to that particular individual, taking into account what are the challenges they face in accessing the labor market. And we said some of them are non-employment related. And also understand the possible provision available to the different disadvantaged groups and how and when different provisions can be used to facilitate that integration of the individual. I think it is very important as well to provide the staff this knowledge and training for them to understand and to think of disadvantaged groups as individual job seekers who have something to offer to the enterprises. And this is an important part because often it is required to challenge some attitudes and support frontline staff as well to think beyond stereotypes and really help, as we said, unlock the potential of each individual from different groups. This training is important that it's an ongoing training. It's not just a one-off, but it's an ongoing training that allows to keep the staff up to date. And it's also complemented with access to materials they can use at any time at their convenience or when needed. It's important to also consider how other external organizations who have a particular in-depth knowledge of particular groups and their needs can also support that training and support the frontline staff. And so these aspects are, as indicated, are very important in order to enhance the support and delivery of these groups. So when we move to what are the key considerations for delivering services to vulnerable groups, first and foremost, I think that the most important one is understanding the needs and knowing that if, for instance, we talk about young disadvantaged groups, they are not all the same, and there are certain aspects that will require important attention. For that, the initial profiling and assessment by the frontline staff is very important because it's the first step to understand then what are the needs and then how to address their needs, what kind of support will be required, what kind of provision can be used to support the individual. It is also important to consider who is the best place to deliver the training and support and showing that there is a joined up services where you will think of the pairs might need to collaborate with other organizations because there might be better place to deliver a specific type of training or support to that individual. When talking about young people, disadvantaged groups, it's very important this single contact person. It's a person that the young people can build up trust. They can use. I mean, often and with young people, they might never have that person in their lives. They can trust and depend on. So having that contact person that understand their situation, understand the needs, it's a very important. It has been proven very effective in facilitating the integration of disadvantaged young people. It's also important, as we said, and as part of that assessment as well, to look at any practical needs that particular individual has, and take that into the planning and the delivering of the activities that person will participate or will take advantage of. It might be, they need transport to get to the post office. Can they afford that? Do they have any caring responsibilities and they need to look after someone? Is there an issue with the timing of the appointments? So it's building the picture of what are the needs, but also what any other practical barriers that can stop that person from accessing that support. It's also the issue around considering it's online versus face-to-face. I think this is quite important because you need to adapt that to the target group. Think about how that person can they access online services, or do they even have access to a smartphone? Obviously, we also need to consider the implications of COVID-19, and we understand that many face-to-face activities, including those for disadvantaged young people, in some cases have to be suspended, but there is still a need to maintain that contact either by telephone or online with those already engaged. Online delivery is used in many public employment services, but it does not necessarily work for all disadvantaged young people. So again, I think it is important, as we said, as part of the assessment, see what is how that individual can access that service in the best way. But what is really, really important is to maintain throughout this time is that single contact person for the young person, and maintain the level of trust. And that's important to ensure the engagement of the young people with the activities and with the service. So moving on, also the active labor market programs and why these are important for vulnerable groups. Obviously, as we know, ALMPs are available to job seekers who are unable to find employment, and there are programs that aim at improving employment prospects, and the goals is reducing the duration of unemployment, improve employment outcomes and for job seekers, and improve system efficiencies. I think the key elements, as we know, and this is just kind of a recap of information that obviously you are aware of, is that employment services and job assistance, where the PES take a mediating role between job seekers and enterprises that are looking for employees. Subsidized employment, either employment or public projects, as we know, public, for instance, public work programs, building new infrastructure, or employment with private employers via wage subsidies. And also a skills training that is on and off the job training with a view of providing job-related skills. For most vulnerable groups, this can include not work-related activities to boost their own soft skills as well. The manual explores two specific types of active labor market programs, vocational education and training, wider training programs, and wage subsidies. And it also provides some examples from Europe-wide, but also very important, relevant examples from within the region. So in delivering these active labor market programs, I mean, it's very important, obviously, to also work with partners to deliver the services. It is very important to tap into the expertise of these specialist providers, particularly when dealing with people from disadvantaged groups, and as we said, very heterogeneous groups with different needs and barriers. So the most appropriate services can be provided in a cost-effective manner as well, and it also means that the PES resources can be maybe funneled towards other activities, such as supporting and counseling easier to place job seekers by utilizing the specialist organizations that can provide this support. And I think by working with other actors, I think it's important that the PES also expand their network. And as a byproduct of this, it's a way of promoting the services the PES provides, and also improve the understanding and the perceptions of the public employment services with those collaborating organizations. I think it is important, obviously, to carefully select and to make sure that these partners make the most appropriate inputs into the design and delivery of the active labor market programs. And this is essential because it can help the PES to deliver high quality, effective active labor market programs that can really aid this transition and integration of disadvantaged groups into the labor market. So now just reflecting as well how are PES supporting young people into employment in the COVID-19 crisis. I mean, support services, including the outreach and activation, active labor market programs for disadvantaged groups have become really important. As we know, unemployment is rising across the world in this autumn. PES have launched some specific services for young people. They are not always targeting those that are most at risk, but it's a way of boosting their employment opportunities and to minimize risk of long-term unemployment. We also highlight in the slides, the European Commission has also launched this communication with the view of inspiring a recommendation of the Bridge for Jobs for young people aged between 15 and 29, that they are really pushing or reinforcing the need for a more inclusive support, the importance of focusing on disadvantaged groups, and connect with the needs of the companies and provide very tailored counseling, guidance, and mentoring. These are the main key messages from this European Commission initiative. I would like to just reflect on some examples from across Europe. For instance, in Italy, and encouraged by the Commission, Ample has taken forward the financing of fixed-term hire of young people not in employment, education, and training to work as healthcare staff. Around 100 million euros from the Youth Employment Initiative has been channeled to this, and they are also using European Social Fund funding to establish a new skills fund, around 230 million euros, supporting obviously the national operational program managed by Ample. In Sweden, we have seen an increase of funding for active labor market programs to prepare for a continued rise in unemployment. Local government is receiving grants for summer jobs for young people, and also grants for funding green jobs to enable subsidized employment, mainly in the area of nature and forest conservation. And in the UK, there is the Kickstart scheme that provides funding to create new job placements for 16 to 24-year-old on the universal credit who are at risk of long-term unemployment. Employers of all sizes can apply for the funding, which covers 100% of the national minimum wage for 24 hours per week for a total of 6 months. Also covers associate employer national insurance contributions, employee minimum automatic enrollment contributions, and employers can spread the start date of the job placements up until the end of December 2021. And in this Kickstart scheme, the application must be for a minimum of 30 job placements. And if a single employer cannot provide this many job placements, they can find a Kickstart gateway, such as a local authority, charity, or trade body, for help in applying. So these are some examples of initiatives that has been triggered, obviously, for the COVID-19 crisis. So this is, as I said, the end of my presentation and this quick overview. And I believe that some of these issues will then cover as part of the remaining contributions. Thank you so much.
Many thanks, Ruth. Now I'm giving the floor to Julia and Helen and Anna to help organize this working group exercise.
Добрый день, уважаемые участники. Пришло время долгожданной групповой работы. Сейчас вы будете распределены на группы, в которых мы предлагаем вам обсудить вопросы, предложенные в программе, которые у вас есть, и на протяжении последующих 20 минут до 12:30 московского времени 20 минут у вас есть на то, чтобы обменяться мнениями, обменяться опытом с представителями вашей группы и также выбрать одного человека от группы, выступающего, который позже представит результаты дискуссий в группах. Сейчас Анна вас распределит на группу, и мы желаем вам продуктивного обмена мнениями во время групповой работы.
Anna, please, you will guide the organization of the working group.
Распределение на группы займет
Коллеги, сейчас я вас разделю
1-2
на
минуты.
группы. Мне просто нужно для этого где-то 3 минуты, так как всех участников мне нужно перемещать вручную.
Пока Анна разделяет вас на группы, мы предлагаем
Thanks,
вам ознакомиться
Anna.
с вопросами.
I think we will give you 3 minutes time for organizing the group. Yes, I would like to stress the importance of this exercise. I think everyone during the crisis, this COVID-19 crisis, we have been learning how to work in internet. I think there are different experiences through Skype, WhatsApp group. This is a Zoom platform. Normally, we work in internet through conference where one speaker delivers the speech for the people. But I think more and more is very much needed also to learn how to work and conduct meetings through internet. I think the COVID-19 crisis is taking longer than we expected originally. And more often in our work, we are invited to have discussion in internet platform. The idea now is to train you, to give a practical opportunity to carry out an exercise on how to participate in a meeting discussion. It's part of our learning objective, to develop your skill on internet discussion. So I hope now that Anna will be very soon able to organize you in different working groups. And Julia, probably you can provide additional information about this different group and how they are composed. Please.
Да, коллеги, пока Анна распределяет вас на группы, для вашего удобства я, во-первых, озвучу вопросы, если не у всех они есть под рукой. Первый вопрос для обсуждения. Каковы, по вашему мнению, сильные стороны вашей службы занятости касательно предоставления услуг для уязвимых категорий молодых людей? Второй вопрос. Исходя из того, что вы услышали сегодня, какие действия и почему вы предпримете для улучшения услуг для уязвимых категорий молодых людей? И третий вопрос. Что вам показалось наиболее интересным в двух предыдущих модулях и в сегодняшнем модуле?
Губ живой губ.
Гульмира. Хайс Гульмира?
Губ. А мы куда это ходим? Где мы?
Ну, Кенва, руководитель
Это
управления.
куда нас отправили?
Это вот так.
Just to remind you, module
Сейчас в
1,
группах
we
нужно
discuss
работать.
service to jobs.
Рубашный жир, акылова
Module
деньгам.
2, we discuss service to employers. And module C, we are discussing now service to vulnerable group. All these 3 modules match are part of a specific section in the public
Рубашная, она же сидит.
service manual.
Да.
You can
Жадра тоже сидит.
read again the content.
Ой, я тогда выхожу
presentation,
из группы.
But also in each section of the manual, you have a checklist for institutional self-assessment. It's a list with different questions where you can rank, how well or how much not well, or what you need to do more for different critical tasks that the public employment service need to perform for delivering the service. Those are the checklists for self-assessment. We are always inviting you to read and to visit the checklist because this checklist can be very useful in your day-to-day work. And now this exercise is to train you again how to conduct institutional self-assessment. It's not an assessment of the people's job, it's how your institution is performing, how well your institution is doing, how many critical tasks you are covering, what other critical tasks you are not covering, but probably you need to do. That is the intention of this exercise, is the intention of the self-assessment checklist. And this is a very simple question, just to facilitate you a training in working group discussion through the Zoom platform. It's a very important, the practical exercise. We are not trying to reach great finding. It's more a practical exercise of learning by doing. Thanks. Anna, you're ready?
Коллеги, скажите, пожалуйста, кто-то остался нераспределенный?
Да, Кыргызстан.
Коллеги, у нас тоже нет группы, видимо, она должна сама появиться, да?
Скажите, пожалуйста, в какую группу вас распределить? То есть мне нужно распределить всех или как вы хотите работать, те, кто остались в группе?
По предоставленному списку мы были в третьей группе.
Анна, добрый день. Это вас беспокоит Министерство занятости Республики Узбекистан. Нас тоже, по-моему, не распределили в группу. У нас 2 человека во второй группе, 1 человек в третьей. Спасибо.
Это Казахстан, нас тоже не определили в сессионный зал.
Уважаемый Диор, я вижу вас во второй группе.
Я тоже не вижу. Грузия.
А как понять, что я во второй группе? Просто здесь нету никаких изменений на экране.
Да, но вы можете слышать только тех, кто в этой группе. Вы слышите не всех, вы видите только...
Ага, значит, я тоже тут.
Возможно, вы и в группе. То есть, смотрите, Диор, я вас вижу во второй группе. Гванса, я вас вижу в первой группе.
Ага, понятно.
Окей, все понятно. Просто жалко, что нельзя посмотреть участников именно по группам, кто разбит.
К сожалению, я не знаю, как это сделать в программе Zoom.
Таня, нас могут слышать, или мы тоже по группе?
Нет, ты в группе 2.
В группе 2.
Вера Филиппова и Антон Беловол, вы в группе 1.
Коллеги, а кто в группе 2, кроме меня?
Министерство занятости Республики Узбекистан во второй.
Да. Очень приятно. Министерство занятости Узбекистана. А еще кто-то есть? Я больше пока никого не слышу.
Кыргызстан, мы вас слышим.
Да, и я вас слышу. Еще
Юля, добрый день. Роструд, вторая
Роструд.
группа.
Да, здравствуйте.
Мы с вами?
Мы с вами, и вы с нами.
Окей, да, я рада.
Да, коллеги, я думаю, что у нас есть полноценные 10 минут для того, чтобы обменяться мнениями относительно предложенных вопросов. И у нас интересный состав. Вот Узбекистан, Кыргызстан, Российская Федерация. Может быть, кто-то еще есть, кого мы еще не услышали. И я думаю, что Мы могли бы начать с вопроса, чтобы вкратце коллеги бы рассказали о сильных сторонах службы занятости относительно предоставления услуг молодым людям, особенно тем молодым людям, которые в данный момент находятся в тяжелом положении в связи со сложившимся кризисом на рынке труда. Было бы интересно кратко буквально обменяться мнениями по этому поводу. И если у вас есть также предложения о каких-то действиях, которые вы могли бы предпринять для улучшения положение молодых людей на рынке труда, исходя из того, что мы обсуждали во время вебинаров, этого вебинара и предыдущих, предлагаю обменяться мнениями, и также, может быть, у нас есть волонтер, кто потом это в консолидированном виде кратенько расскажет в конце нашего вебинара. Если вам подходит, то кто-то мог бы начать.
Да, мы согласны.
Тогда начинайте.
Давайте начнем с Ханты-Мансийска. У них очень хорошая практика по занятости молодежи.
Давайте.
Наталья Владимировна.
Наталья Владимировна, мы не слышим. Наталья Владимировна, если вы с нами, то нужно включить микрофончик, чтобы все вас услышали.
Тогда Виолетта Федоровна, Калининградская область.
Коллеги, не забывайте включать микрофон, чтобы вас было слышно. Это можно сделать внизу, слева.
Может, они просто в другой группе, поэтому...
Может быть, они ушли в другую группу. Давайте начнем с Узбекистана тогда.
Давайте, ладно, начнем. Рад всех приветствовать. Коллеги, меня зовут Фулаев Джор, замначальник международного управления Министерства занятости и трудовых отношений Республики Узбекистан. В Республике Узбекистан у нас ведется активная работа по привлечению молодежи к труду, особенно той молодежи, которая не имеет опыт. На данный момент существует у нас несколько программ, которые Центр содействия занятости, в принципе, министерством через фонд содействия занятости обеспечивается непосредственно занятость молодежи. На текущий момент у нас есть субсидии со стороны государства, со стороны министерства для начала своей коммерческой деятельности, для открытия бизнеса. Да, она дается в размере 10-кратной базовой расчетной величины. Не буду углубляться в стоимость, чтобы она в национальной валюте. Но зачем это нужно, для чего это делается, чтобы молодой человек, который хочет начать свой собственный бизнес, он мог прийти в Центр содействия занятости и, соответственно, подать заявку и получить субсидию для открытия юридического лица, где ему также помогут отправить на курсы по предпринимательской деятельности. Эту же субсидию можно потратить на оплату страхового полиса при получении более большого кредита для покупки оборудования или еще каких-нибудь других расходных средств. Ну и куча других. Далее, если мы будем двигаться, то у нас есть субсидии для сельскохозяйственных кооперативов, а потом есть субсидии на установление теплиц легкой конструкции, приобретение семян, саженцев и средств орошения. То есть также молодой человек, который хочет заняться, выращивать какие-то сорта, построить теплицы и так далее, он может спокойно обратиться и получить со стороны Центров содействия занятости, а именно государства, соответствующие субсидии. Также есть субсидии на покрытие затрат для приобретения ковров шелкоткацких станков. Далее есть субсидия работодателям на возмещение расходов по профессиональной подготовке, переподготовке, повышению квалификации работников. Особенно это востребовано, когда сейчас в наше время все очень быстро меняется, цифровизация, и нужно иметь кадры, которые соответствуют современным реалиям. И в этом случае государство тоже не остается в стороне, оно всячески содействует как работникам и работодателям. в том числе. Также есть субсидии безработным лицам, которые не имели никакого опыта. Их направляют на профобучение. Они осваивают определенную специальность, которую они выбирают из перечня, да, возможных. И в дальнейшем им помогает тоже также трудоустройство через наши службы Центра содействия занятости. Помимо этого у нас строятся большие моноцентры Ишке Мархамата в регионах нашей республики. Такое уже есть в городе Ташкенте. И сейчас еще запускается в работу еще 14 таких. То есть это большой комплекс, где обучают как и языкам, как и профессиям, так и там существуют и различные, ну, также внутри находится у нас Центр содействия занятости, также там есть представительство банков внутри же Ишке Мархамат. Кроме этого, там у нас есть ситуационные комнаты именно для тех граждан, которые хотели бы, которые хотели бы выехать за территорию Республики Узбекистан для дальнейшего трудоустройства. Но это большой современный комплекс. Помимо этого у нас есть центры профессионального обучения в регионах отдельно. И сейчас
So here, I think in this group, you can unmute yourself, but I don't speak Russian, so I don't know how to explain.
But you are in the group with the interpreter or not?
I'm not here. I don't know which group is.
I can't hear anything.
I cannot hear as well because I think no one is speaking, but we don't have translation. So we are in a group without translation. Hey, hi, Claire. Claire Liebenman, you are there.
Liebman, hi, good morning. But it's true, without translator, I'm not sure I
Yes,
will be able to say something.
Yes, we are in a group without translator. So.
But I was in a group with translator, but the translator disappeared.
But yes, something we move. Just to explain clear that the first time that we are introducing a working group exercise in a Zoom conference. So I think it's a learning experience. More people is a little bit confused. But I don't know where I am now.
But how many groups are they?
But
there are three groups. There are three groups. And
I was with Uzbekistan.
Three groups and one translator, only
the one I heard was from Uzbekistan.
No, because the other people speak Russian, no?
Yeah, but there is only one translator focused on one of these three groups.
Yes.
Am I right?
No, there are two translators, but the one was in the working group. And the people don't need a translator, only us, no? Jens,
so Helen,
Claire,
solution, please.
Helen, and me. So I think we will finish soon and come back and to the panel. No, Helen? That is the idea?
Hi, Ruth. Now I remember your face. Now that I see you. Sorry.
I think probably we are not in a group. We are in the part of the panelists side.
Okay.
This is why we are among experts.
That's the reason that we are here together, no?
No, I mean, we are the speakers, not the attendees. Okay, I got it.
Yes, it's.
Well, I heard a few things. I can moderate on. I can say something on that. But I mean, so I heard a few things. So I can. I can say a few things, but not much.
Helen, Ruth, you want to say something? The first you are Helen and Ruth. Yes, I think we have 2 more minutes more, no?
Yeah, so when we do all come back together and we have the interpreter back with us, then Ramiro, I guess you will say, just kind of welcome everybody back to the group, and then I'll go into the panel discussion. So introducing the panel, introducing Claire and Jens, and then Claire, I'll ask you the questions, and I'll have the slides on screen, and then I'll ask Jens the questions.
So, but Julia said that the working group where she is participating was fine, no? So I
just this one.
Not all the working group are like our working group here.
Yeah, we are no working group because we are not working.
Not all, we are not working.
So you know what? Meanwhile, I'm going to work on something else because I'm really out of
time.
But
I can't hear.
But we will start very soon. Huh? I think it was 10 minutes, no? Helen?
Yeah, I could see something's happening. So yeah, I think it'll be very, very shortly. So yeah, Claire, if you want to,
I'm not leaving, but just
I can't hear Claire.
My next meeting.
Am I supposed not to hear her?
Yeah. We give.
Can Claire hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Claire?
Yes.
But I can't hear you.
You cannot hear me?
Yes, you. You're Claire, right?
Yeah, but the others can hear me.
Yeah, I can't hear her. I can. So I'm sort of thinking for the panel discussion, it's quite important that I can hear Claire Lieberman.
Jens, Jens, can you hear all the people? Because we can hear Claire perfectly well.
I can hear you, yes.
Yes, I can hear you very well. Just I exchanged a message with Julia to ask her to call back all the participants in 2 minutes.
Okay, so just check.
Why don't you disconnect, reconnect? Maybe it's
no, I can't.
You heard me well.
I can listen you too very well.
You answered me.
Yes, I can listen. You don't have problem listening to them, Ellen, Ruth?
I can hear
No, but
everybody
he did answer
absolutely
to me,
fine.
which means
Yeah,
that
yeah,
he can't
Jens.
hear me.
I can't hear
He's
Fred either
answering
now.
me.
Is this a Belgian Danish thing?
I don't understand what happens. Why does he answer me?
So it would sort of, I mean, if we are going to have this panel discussion, it would sort of be quite difficult.
But you hear me, so why would it be difficult?
Yeah, you can put the Russian translator, Jens.
I could do that. Perhaps that is the problem. Should I change from I have English translation. Yeah. Should I change that to Russian?
No.
You speak Russian?
No, I've got it as English as well.
Because in that case, Jen, you will hear Claire, but in Russian.
well, at least I can hear her voice then.
No, you
really
will hear the voice of the translator.
That's really strange because Claire can all hear
Anna.
you.
Yeah.
Anna, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, it's.
Yeah. So how you can come back? All the people we wait here.
I will close the rooms, but I was in group 3. They are discussing.
Yeah.
Now I will go. Room 2 is discussing because Julie is there, and I will go to room 1.
Close the group, Anna. I think it was fine. Just an exercise. No, we are not expecting to finish the conversation now. Please, yeah. So you are the manager here. You can close the working group and bring us to the.
So one more time, Ramiro. Sorry, what do you want from me?
Yeah, it might work when you go back.
To bring back all the people to the Zoom now.
Okay, but I will tell them. Okay.
Yeah, tell them that we are bringing back, and we will start.
In 24 minutes, I have another meeting.
Yes. We did with a pilot exercise. We know now what's happening.
Okay, sure. Okay.
Yeah, we're waiting here, no?
Yes, I'm...
Anyways, he's moderating everything. We don't move, I mean, don't
We
take
are
your
anxious to
chair.
meet the people again, yes.
Sit down.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can all hear each other now.
No, but we stay here.
No, he still says no.
With the camera, so the people when it's coming back see and we are here. No, and we disappear.
Jens, I can summarize what Claire says before I ask you for questions.
But it also might change as everyone goes back to the room.
Yeah,
it might change. So let's just wait and see if it changes things.
What?
Yeah. Otherwise, please, yes.
We have to have a plan B. Do you have a plan B?
Well, I can summarize what you say before I ask Jens the questions. So obviously I won't get all the detail, but it will get some of it.
So you communicate through Ellen.
Yeah, because Claire, we can all hear you. It's just Jens cannot hear you for some reason. It's likely
an intra-European problem.
Yeah, I think that's something.
But the corona thing is also very severe in Belgium, I've heard. So that might be it.
So this is why you have protected yourself against me.
Yeah, that's the Danish way of a face mask.
But although I live in a very, very touched country by corona, I am confined since March. Myself. Yeah. I don't go out of my house. Everything is delivered here. I don't go to supermarkets. I go nowhere. I'm very cautious.
Julia and Anna are here now. Anna, are you calling the people back?
Yes.
Yes, I'm calling people back.
Thanks.
I'm bringing people back.
I will say a few words and give the floor to Helen and Jens and Claire.
Do we have to close our mics before?
But if you don't have a...
Well, maybe in your case, Claire, don't close the mic.
No, you don't close, better not close. I think Claire
I am not the problem.
You stay as you are now. You don't close.
I don't move. I'm frozen. He heard me.
So colleagues,
now I can see many people coming.
45 seconds.
Yeah, fine. And the translator is there?
Yeah, yes.
Good. So you can translate for me, no? Thanks. So how many people is coming back? We're still waiting.
I can see my participant list 22.
Yeah.
We had 30.
Yeah, we just 20 seconds, colleagues, and everybody will come back.
Yes, thanks. I'm waiting your signal, Anna, to start. Yeah.
Yes. 3, 2, 1. That's all.
Good.
Please, colleagues, we can start. Thank you.
Yeah, first, I have to say that I'm so happy to see you coming back to the panel discussion and to our meeting room in Zoom. This was an exercise just trying to innovate how we can use the Zoom platform for group discussion, for working group discussion, for meeting. I hope that probably for many of you was first time. Also was first time for me, to be in this working group discussion in a Zoom platform. And from one moment to another, all you disappear, but now you are back. Really, it's a pleasure to see you again. Now we are going to the panel discussion with our expert. Remember, is Claire Liebman from Belgium and Jens Siversen from Denmark. And Helen will moderate the panel. So Helen, the floor is yours.
Yep, brilliant. Thank you very much, Ramiro. So we are going to have a very short panel discussion talking about developing and adjusting services for disadvantaged young people, including those not in education, employment or training. And we are very, very pleased to have with us today 2 experts from Europe. So first of all, we have Claire Liebman, who works for the Cité de Métier in Brussels. We'll talk about what the Cité de Métier is very shortly. And we also we will also hear from Jens as well. We will also hear from Jens Siversen from Denmark, who has extensive work experience in the region, in the Russian Federation and also Azerbaijan. And he has also previously worked for the Danish PES on services for young people and youth employment schemes. So that should be a really nice balance. Claire, can you hear me?
Not very well. I think there is a problem with the microphone. I was hearing you better when we were in a small group.
Okay.
Yeah. Claire, I can listen to you very well. So
yeah, I am. I think that Ellen has changed something with her mic.
Yeah. So, but we can listen to you. Helen, you have a question for Claire first?
Yes, I do. I do have a question for Claire. So, Claire, could you tell us a little bit more about what the Cité de Métier is and the relationship with the public employment services?
Of course, I can explain, but can you show the slides meanwhile so it will be much clearer for everyone?
Yeah.
So I can already start.
Yeah, you can start and we will see how we can put the slide. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So the Cité des Métiers is, okay.
Now you have the slide.
No, this is not the first slide.
No,
Claire, we only have the slides on.
Sorry, okay.
So please do go ahead.
Yes, the Cité des Métiers is an association constituted by partners. We work with 70 partners, including our main sponsors, The main sponsors are the PES and the two regional organizations for VET. Do I need to explain what VET is?
Yes, please just do explain what the
VET means vocational education and training. So it's a professional trainings that lead to a métier, to a profession. Okay, so we have one first circle of partners who are the regional Brussels PES, plus these two vocational training organizations. Why do we have two? This is very Belgian. It's because Brussels is the capital of a bilingual country. So we will have one VET organization for French-speaking trainings and one for Dutch-speaking trainings. Okay, so this is not important for you, but it exists. Okay, we have a second circle of partners who are the partners who delegate personnel, staff to our activities. So me, for instance, I am delegated by the Brussels PES activists to work at the Cité des Métiers. So I am paid by the PES, but I don't work at the PES. I work at Cité des Métiers, paid by the PES. Okay? And then we have this first circle of partners. We are 14 partners that delegate personnel, each one with our specialties. My specialty is young people, young unemployed people, but we have specialists in orientation of seniors. We have specialists by industries, for instance, construction industry, etc., etc. And then we have a last circle of partners who don't delegate, but who organize collective activities either in our space when we are open, but in this COVID period, all our collective activities are online. And so they have access to our online platforms and to our audience, to the people we work with. And so they can also give collective activities. So the Cité des Métiers is not only working with the PES. We have a mission of working with all people from Brussels or interested in the Brussels market, because what is important with the Cité des Métiers is that we welcome everyone freely and anonymously, which means that we don't know if you are from Brussels or if you are from Flanders or even if you've come from another country. But all your questions have to be in connection with the Brussels labor market. So we welcome you according to your needs, not according to your age, your status. So whether you're unemployed or a student who in search of orientation for his studies, or a parent who wants to help his child find an orientation for his studies, or a worker who wants to reorient, or a worker who wants to build a side business next to his or her activities, we are open to everyone freely. So we work on 5 topics. The first one being orientation or reorientation. The second one being learning, including studies and trainings, which don't depend on the same ministries. The third is labor. In terms of labor, we don't replace the PES. We don't do what the PES does. We complete it, we complement what PES does. For instance, we study the evolution of industries, especially in this COVID period. What is the impact of COVID-19 on the labor, on the Brussels labor market, industry by industry? And then we organize collective activities on these industries. We call these Zooms on industry, Zoom on the digital industry, for instance. So this is our third topic. Our fourth topic is mobility. So it is mobility within Belgium, from Brussels to Flanders to Wallonia, or from Flanders to Brussels, but also international mobility, people who want to work abroad, to have traineeship abroad, etc. And our last topic is entrepreneurship. We are a first line information office for people who think of creating their own business, and we then relay them to more specialized institutions or services. So this is our mission. And as I said, we have different levels of partnerships, and this makes the Cité des Métiers unique, because our PES, Akiris, is the PES only, and is focused only on work. We have these 5 different focuses. So it's very interesting to have this multi-partnership foundation. Now, in terms of partnership, what is very important and why we are so successful is that our partnerships are regional or even local. We know the population of Brussels is not the population of another city or region in Belgium. We are very specific, first because we are the capital of Europe, so we have lots of expats. Second, because we are we have a city and a region that has very wealthy people due to the European institutions, but that has become too expensive for the Brussels people. So the Brussels people have very often migrated to other regions around Brussels, and who remains? Only the people who can't afford moving. So we have a public that is very disadvantaged, especially youth people, in which I am specialized. If you let me speak, I will speak for 2 hours.
No, I think that's a really good introduction to the Cité des Métiers, and I know as well that yeah, having been to the Cité des Métiers, the layout, it's a very different kind of setting from the usual public employment service, because it's you know, anyone, well, in non-corona times, anyone can walk in and visit the premises. But what would be really interesting, just picking up from what you've mentioned there, is could you tell us a little bit more about the specific projects that you have for young people who are not in education, employment, or training?
Yeah. So the Cité des Métiers works with a lot of young people. Some of them are pupils, others are students, others are unemployed, but the needs, not in education, employment, or training, is a very, very specific target group, because they are completely out of reach of all public services, including school, PES, vocational training, etc., etc. Why are they so far from public services? It's because they are the most disadvantaged, fragile population that has very often has lots of problems with schools, problems with their families, problems with their housing, economic problems, and they have lost their trust in our society, including, of course, in the PES. So the fact of approaching them by being a Cité des Métiers, that is an association, that is not a public service, that is an association made including public services, but also local associations, etc., makes us more, how you say, trustworthy? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, for these young people who have lost all their hopes and trust, and are sometimes very aggressive with the institutions. So this is an advantage of being a Cité des Métiers with working with these people. So now, what do we offer specifically to these people, besides what we offer to all Brussels people, which I have explained earlier? we offer two categories of modules. One of them is that we help local partners working with young people, but not especially in professional insertion. Do you say that, insertion? In professional, okay, in their professional projects?
Places, yeah.
Okay, so for instance, youth movements, etc., who help young people in their daily lives, in their family lives, in finding a housing, etc., but they are not specialized in the labor market, in finding studies, in finding trainings, etc. We do offer these local associations that work with youth modules that are very dynamic, based on what we call serious games. For instance, I have designed an escape games to help young people to first to have fun, but this is not the aim. This is the medium, but based on an analysis of what we call the multiple intelligences. So each one of us has there exists 8 type of intelligences, and each one of us is dominant in 1 or 2 or 3 or sometimes more. And at school, students only focus on verbal intelligence and on mathematical intelligence. So people who have left school because they were not good at school often are treated as stupid young people. They know nothing, they have no competences, etc. And we help them explore, because it's the name of the program, we help them explore their forms of intelligence, and we help them contextualize these forms of intelligence with professional skills and then with a professional project. So this is one of our modules. We have several modules, but that are offered to young people within associations. And then we have our specific program for the young people. We do outreach ourselves. Do I have to explain what outreach is?
Outreach, I'll just very briefly summarize. It's very much being very proactive, isn't it? And going out and finding the young people and then slowly, by surely bringing them and starting to kind of work with them to understand, but in a very informal setting. So it could be specialist youth workers going to, finding out where the young people hang out. Maybe it's, a bus stop or something like that, and just building up that relationship.
Sports clubs.
Yeah.
Where they are, because they don't come to the public institutions. So we have to find them where they are. The name of the method is called Find, Mind, Bind. We find them, and then we mind them, meaning we remobilize them to have trust in us and moreover in themselves, we try to empower them, to make them realize that they have a potential and that they can build on their potential to reach their professional target. And then Find, Mind, Bind, we bind them by offering them services. So the second program in parallel of these modules of exploration is called HUP, and it helps young people to build their mini enterprise. So we instead of being like a school, because most of them hated school, they learn by doing. They build their own business project, coached by us. They really have to find capital to finance their mini project. They have to find a good idea of product or services, either to produce or to be only sold. And then they really learn business by doing it. We create small groups, small teams with at least 5 youngsters each one having a responsibility, a function in the company, one being the CEO, one being the financial director, etc. So they, in the same time, they learn about the sector, the industry where they will have chosen to create their mini business, but they also learn about what a financial director does, because they really have to make their accounting. They pay themselves salaries. We don't give them money. We give them a toolbox to learn how to raise capital, small amount of capital, never more than 700 euro per mini enterprise. It's very, very small. So because it's a small capital, they need to be very, very creative to find a business that could generate some profit with such a little capital. And then we teach them how to make a market study, a feasibility study, etc., etc. We help them find places for their products or services to be sold, markets or online, especially now at this period, everything is online in Instagram pages and things like this. So they learn by doing, but if they generate enough profits to be paying themselves salaries, they can pay themselves salaries. And this is why this project is kind of revolutionary here with the NEET population, because as the NEET population is far from the institutions, you guess that they receive no unemployment indemnity because they are not registered at the best. They don't receive, they either they live in the street, or they live with their parents, or they do what illegal stuff to raise, I mean, to be able to survive. So here we try to bring them back to the real clean society by learning how to run a clean business. And then, so this is why it's a very successful thing, because all of them at the beginning of the project dream of paying themselves like 100 euro salary, 100 euro per hour. But as they are their own boss, they know, they experiment that they didn't make enough profit to pay themselves such a high salary. So they start to be forced to calculate more and to understand the system, the economic system, but from the inside. So well, it's a very, I mean, very rich program. Most of these mini enterprises don't generate profits, but they learn why, and they stop accusing the system of being the reason of all their problems. They understand how complex it is, and then they want to learn more to develop their projects.
That's really, really fascinating, Claire, because it shows how you can really think outside of the box and let the young people learn themselves by doing, and kind of start to get them more integrated into society by using different tools and techniques, not necessarily your standard active labour market programs that perhaps, you know, that would have been used perhaps previously. So with that in mind, and with the Cité de Métier example in mind, of being more flexible and working with lots of other partners, I wanted to now move to Jens. And first of all, Jens, together with your thoughts from the the working group that you attended earlier, as well as your experience in the region, what would you see as being the most important actions and steps for the PES and employment services in the region, given the COVID-19 context?
Well, thanks, Ellen. Before getting into that, I would just say I'm glad to be back. I've enjoyed very much the missions in the regions and being able to contribute where I could in sort of having a dialogue on what can be done. I think this is a very important way in these times that we can actually meet and share experiences. What I will try to do is based on my experience and from these missions, and also from my Danish experience currently, what is going on in Denmark. I will sort of try to outline what I see as the challenges, and also what could possible solutions be. Initially, I will sort of try to draw on my experiences from my missions, and then go back sort of trying to say what have sort of been the approach in Denmark. Initially, of course, we are all affected by the coronavirus. What is sort of the situations, I think, everywhere is that changes impact quite quickly, not only in the short term, but also in the long-term perspective. Businesses quickly find new avenues to trade and partnership. So this requires an agile PES that understands the market and that can easily adapt to changes and modify existing procedures and solutions. When I've sort of been traveling, of course, what I see is that there's, of course, a huge variety in the regions, also because of different labor markets, different demographics, but all faced with what I see as points of attention, an issue of migration, skills imbalance, and disengagement. I think those are sort of the main avenues to look into. I mean, that you have to realize that these three parameters, migration, skills imbalance, and disengagements, may become even worse in these times. And those have also been the points of attention on the missions from the different partners in the Russian Federation and also in Azerbaijan, how to tackle this. And what I've seen so far are sort of very good examples of how you can address this. One of the foremost is to provide close monitoring and assessment of the labor market. You have Kantimatsisk, I know, have been very focused on developing a labor market information system. This becomes even more important now in a changing labor market, and should be used as a platform for deciding where are the demand for labor. So as such, I think even more now there is this stress to actually get a system in place where you can actually monitor the labor market and not spend a lot of time on developing new and advanced solutions, but actually finding out here and now, perhaps using surveys, quick access to information that may not be totally evidence-based on a greater platform, but can be such in the here and now situation, address where are the needs, have a view to where can you create solutions that create new jobs. Some mentions has to been to provide different subsidies to companies, and also, like I think was the case in Uzbekistan, which I heard in the workshop, developing these multi-competence centers. I think that is a very good point, because in a labor market now where which is stagnating, perhaps even becoming less abundant than before, it's a good time to invest in competence building and education. So also, I think that should be one of the main priorities, actually, to look into the pool of unemployed, targeted approach to youth, perhaps going out to schools to address those who are about to leave school, to address where are the labor market moving now, here and now, in the short term.
Oh, we seem to have lost Jens.
Yeah, so So in basic, what I'm trying to say by saying this, there is the approach that is about identifying the relevant labor market, the relevant demand, to build the supply that match the demand. So job readiness is one that should be sort of addressed. What I also think when we are talking about those, so you have a dual target, you have those who do not have education, then you should try to address and target them to areas where you believe a labor market will and can be developed. Then you also have to address those who have an education, where you may have to transfer skills to new markets. So there is this dual approach that should be addressed to young people, also in terms of, as I said before, to indemnify migration, not increase skills imbalance, and not further even more disengagement from the labor market, which is also one of the issues of that many of you have mentioned.
And Jens, for thinking then about kind of the next steps for pairs in the region, what would you say would be the kind of the first step for them to take forward, the first step and possible solutions, they can really help to address the crisis?
Well, I think one of the main steps, but it's also, I mean, there's many avenues to pursue, but in my view, I think that you have, I mean, these three targeted approaches are these three challenges I mentioned, migration, disengagement, and greater skills imbalance as a risk, is that you really have to identify the labor market at present. And in order to ensure young people that they can, in fact, profit from a future labor market, to provide competence building, upgrading of skills and qualifications, perhaps also if you can encourage education for those without an education in targeted areas, that should. And you, of course, have to commit employers to this. The problem right now, and that is the problem, that employers, I mean, are not very willing to take on people in subsidized employment because if there's not a market out there, also if there's a lot of people being made redundant, there are available skills that can easily move to businesses who are not in risk of being made redundant. So you are, in fact, in a very severe situation. So you have to sort of consider the youth while waiting for the labor market to change. Use the time efficiently by upgrading skills and qualifications. That is one approach. The other approach within the structure, because I believe, as was also said, I'm totally aligned and in agreement with the fact that the job center has a crucial role to play and should be considered as the leading part in making changes. That also means that you have to have an agile public employment services who can easily adapt to changes. One solution is, of course, provide digital solutions for training. That could be one access. It could also be satellite services. If you have rather large companies that are in risk of being having to lay people off, provide services where you go out there, identify the skills gap, transfer skills to new markets, etc. So where you actually move the public employment services out to the businesses. So that would be one approach also to if I should sort of just say what the Danish experience is, should I get into that?
Yeah, if you very briefly, just in me thinking about the time, but very briefly just mention your experience from your time at the Danish pairs.
Yes, I mean, sort of some of the things I've said here is also in Denmark, where we have sort of, the approach has mainly not to deliver particular services for youth, but rather, what I said also previously, to basically provide increased funding for upgrading of skills and qualifications while the labor market is changing, because it's actually quite difficult for young people to enter the labor market, the pool of available resources, because many are made redundant, I mean, makes it even more difficult for young people to actually access the labor market. And subsidized employment is also something that employers right now are quite reluctant to make use of because they don't know the situation. They may have laid some of their own staff off and would much rather employ them while the labor market, when the labor market comes back into previous standards. So what we are trying to do and what has been the Danish is that sort of we are mainstream, we are sort of carrying on the same service as before, a more targeted approach towards upgrading of skills and qualifications, and a very strong focus on supporting the businesses on a national level, but also in the job center, basically going out there and say, how can we be of service to you? But at the national levels, a lot of compensation packages has been made. There's also a part for the unions to play. We have this division of labor agreements where staff salary are reduced so they can stay at work. So they may all suffer from a 10% decrease in salary or something like that, but it means that the employer then agrees not to make people redundant within a period. So there's also the role for the unions to play in providing solutions.
And Jens, I just wanted to open the floor to anyone at this point who had any questions for Jens. Please do either add your questions into the chat box or to unmute your microphones and do ask the questions. Okay, so Jens, I just invite you to say some final conclusions and remarks from your side before we then move on with the agenda.
Yes, just give me 2 seconds.
Yep.
Well, basically, you know, from my experience, I think, like I said, these are the 3 main points of departures that you should look into to sort of maintain youth in the region. Of course, that should be a targeted approach because those skills you will need when the labor market changes. So that gives you a strong focus. And so in all, I mean, yes, you should have a focus on the need groups in terms of youngs, but I think you should have a dual approach on the need young on one hand, all those, but also very much those who are in risk of becoming disadvantaged because they sort of falls off the train and sort of will be a lost generation. So I think you have a very strong focus, have to have a strong focus on that. The other point is that you should really focus on providing data on the labor market in your region. Thirdly, I think you should look into, because that is also a good time to do it, looking on the competence building. How can you as a PES become a strong partner, and how can you continue the work that you're already doing in developing and maintaining strong partnerships? That would be my recommendations to focus very strongly on sort of in these times.
Yeah, and I think that's a really nice summary of the most important steps to take forward. I would like to thank you very much, Jens, for your contributions today.
You're welcome.
It's very interesting to hear you know, your views on what and building on your experience in the region, but also with your Danish experience as well. And also thanks to Claire as well for talking us through the City de Métier example and the different work that they are doing on outreach and on activation of disadvantaged young people as well. So Ramiro, I hand back over to you to introduce the working group feedback session.
Julia? Really, I'm not sure if finally the working group achieved to...
We can't hear you.
One. If not, move to final part of the session, but I don't know what is the outcome of the working group. Julia, do you think that people from the working group are ready to provide a feedback?
Коллеги, я бы предложила тем участникам рабочей группы, которые хотели высказаться, и, может быть, не успели сделать это в ходе групповых обсуждений, взять сейчас слово и кратко представить опыт своих стран. У нас не так много времени, но я думаю, если 2-3 минуты несколько участников выступят, это было бы очень интересно.
Julia, could you please to stress that could be reporting the discussion, but also reporting about the experience, no? How they receive the experience of finding themselves in a discussion with a working group.
Да, и вот Рамира предлагает высказать не только свое мнение относительно опыта вашей страны, но также, может быть, пару слов о вашем опыте участия в групповой дискуссии, как это было. Поэтому я предлагаю коллегам взять слово, если у кого-то есть желание. Участники, пожалуйста, у нас есть возможность послушать несколько участников. Возможно, также у кого-то возникли вопросы к нашим экспертам, и также в ходе вашего выступления вы могли бы задать вопрос. Я вижу, у нас есть один вопрос в чате. Возможно, вы хотели бы задать его устно. У нас есть вопрос к эксперту из Бельгии, Клэр. Относительно финансирования стартапов для молодых людей, об источнике финансирования своего бизнеса, открытия своего дела для молодежи.
Unfortunately, Claire's had to leave a webinar because she has other meetings and commitments. However, what I can do is pass this question on to Claire after today's webinar, and we can get her to respond to that, and then we can send that on as well as the presentations in the post-webinar package of information.
Может быть, у кого-то еще появились вопросы? Или все-таки желание представить опыт своей страны, опыт своей службы занятости относительно содействия оказания услуг наиболее уязвимым молодым людям или молодым людям, которые оказались в наиболее тяжелой ситуации в данный момент? Ну, вот я могу сказать, что я была во второй группе, в групповой работе. У нас был очень интересный опыт представлен из Узбекистана, из Казахстана, из Киргизстана. Также планировала выступить Российская Федерация, но вот мы не успели послушать. Может быть, кто-то из этих коллег хочет высказаться. И представить свой опыт не только в рамках групповой работы, а чтобы все послушали. Все сегодня скромные, и если все-таки нет желания выступить или задать вопрос, то тогда, Рамира, мы можем перейти к следующей части нашей программы.
So we give the floor to Ruth and Ellen, and then I will close the session today. But first to Ruth and Ellen. Ellen, you will start, and then Ruth, and then Lisa. Yep, thanks.
Yep. So I think today's session has been really interesting in terms of, you know, as we know, the COVID-19 crisis has really affected young people most considerably, for the reasons that Ruth outlined before, and there's lots of literature already on that. So it is really important, and as Jan said, the PES have a really critical role, you know, not in the future, but right now, to make a difference to young people by, as Claire mentioned, and the City de Métier example of being proactive and reaching out there. But there's also some important steps as well that are needed around providing the labour market information, as Jens quite rightly said earlier. Working closely with employers to match the labour market supply and demand, but also to really place young people who perhaps do already have skills but have been out of work for some time, and also to think that now is a good time as well to really think creatively about how we can support the most disadvantaged young people in preparing for the labour market, for when the labour market picks up, whether that be in the next year or 2 years, but by providing active labour market programmes, activities like Claire mentioned, where they become more familiar with the skills and the the competencies that are needed to really fully participate in the labour market, as well as just becoming a bit closer to the formal economy as well. Ruth, did you want to add anything in there? Oh, my last point would be very much that, you know, we also need to, underneath all of that, understand that the needs of each young person is different, so that individual contact with them is super important, and working in partnerships with other providers is also important in terms of the outreach, but also to channel and address any other issues that they may be facing as well.
So I'll probably just build on what Helen is saying around this very important point about working in partnership. I mean, we're talking about the type of support that we need to provide to disadvantaged young people to be able to get them closer to a labour market, or to be integrated into a labour market, looking around at the training. But also it's very important to work very closely with employers. I mean, we know that COVID-19 has seen a rise of unemployment, and obviously is affecting all young people, and it will be even more difficult in these circumstances to even integrate those who might be facing disadvantages. So it's very important when it comes to the public employment service to utilize those links with the specialist organizations that could help in delivering some support in an effective manner, but also be very proactive when it comes to reaching out to the employers to understand and to also challenge attitudes and showing the value of that these people from disadvantaged groups can add to the workforce, and they are taking into account positive experiences, but also using employers themselves, champions that have been helping in the integration of these groups as a way of changing the narrative and supporting other employers to do so. So it is, as we said, an important role for the PES to support inclusive labour markets. And there are different approaches, tools, and practices that can support the PES in doing so, even in the time or supporting the economic recovery.
Thanks, Ruth, for your final remarks. Jens, you have been with us all this session. Please, would you like to give your final word or your own takeaways of this session, please? Jens, you need to unmute yourself. Jens, you need
yes.
now. Thanks.
Well, I think what I've heard so far, I think is also in alignment with what I think needs to be done, both on the part of what is done in Belgium, where you can actually address particular needs, and also what I sort of think was also Claire's point of view also from this project is that you have to be out there where the young people are, the same as mentioned just before, that you have to be working much more closely with employers. They are the solution here and now. If you can support them in expanding their sectors or expanding their businesses or target certain sectors, I think that is crucial. Then, of course, like I said, competence buildings of young people is of essence, not only from the point of view of the needs of employers, but also to retain them in the area, providing them opportunities which may not be work, jobs here and now, but actually will be skills that they can use in the future. Something I haven't mentioned that perhaps should be mentioned, if there is a prospect for public work in the region, that could also be an avenue to introduce young people into the labor market. So public work, if there is the sufficient funding, either nationally, for instance, from the Russian Federation, or locally, can be used as a way of introducing young people into new skills, new areas, making it mandatory for businesses to take young people on in subsidized work if they are to be contracted out from to do public works. So that could also be an avenue to pursue.
Many thanks, Jens, for your final words and for reminding us the importance of the public work program that we didn't mention before, but here in the region is a very important public work program and also can be used for targeted support to young people. We finished today the chapter 5 of the manual Public Employment Service and the Future of Work. Then we are reading in the context of the COVID-19 crisis. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's very important that you check the manual before the session and after the session. This is a training where we have this webinar session, but this training also needs to go together with a consultation with the PES manual so you can learn how to read this important tool and how to apply and how to use. We have been a very, I think, innovative session today. The opening, I think, from Mikhail Pushkin put the focus in the importance of the public employment service, especially when we are moving now from immediate crisis response to economic recoveries. The public employment service can play a very important role. They are playing a very important role, but Mikhail warned that not all our local partners, not all the stakeholders, not all the public institutions, and even workers and employer organizations are aware or well informed about the public employment service activities, the important role they are playing. If that is the reason he mentioned why here in Ilo Moscow and the regional office for East Europe and Central Asia, we are so interested in promoting this webinar, highlighting the importance of the public employment service. After that, I think Ruth Brian Santos introduced the content of the chapter. To remember that service to vulnerable group is one of the 3 core services, no? Service for job seeker, the first one, service for employer, the second one, and the public employment service has a specific mandate for service for a vulnerable group. This is the first 3 modules that we have delivered for you. Ruth, you can now visit the manual again. She went explaining who are the vulnerable group, how we identify the vulnerable group. I think the vulnerable group, you have some legal definition of vulnerable group, but the vulnerable group also we have discussed today, they depend on how the world of work is changing, not how the labor market is changing. We go to the street and we can see new series of vulnerable groups. for instance, young people in working with this internet platform and service delivery. This is a new phase of vulnerable group, and how to work, the best work with internet platform workers is a very important issue as well. And I think Ruth also mentioned the importance of building partners and share with us very specific experience in Italy, Sweden, and UK, how they are matching resources for enterprise on the condition that they provide job for young people. We also listen this a very interesting and really innovative experience from Belgium, Brussels, the capital of Europe, where they have developed this different institution where the public employment service participate, but it's an institution that bring more people, more partners. It's a local development approach where they are concerned, for instance, with young people that is not in education and training and employment, and they provide this vocational education and training solution. They say support labor mobility and entrepreneurship. That is a very important component where you have more questions. We will see how we later in another section come back to the question how entrepreneurship is financed. In the next session, probably we can take again this point. And it was very important, the presentation from Claire Liebman, because she showed how the local partner working with young people, but including, she mentioned youth organization. So they go in a context of local development, and the public employment service provide a specific skill, knowledge to help young people. There are many institutions. She says someone providing housing solution, but the public employment service provide a specific input of service in concerning to labor competence. And finally, Jens Siversen, then now we didn't congratulate to Jens Siversen, but is the new appointed manager of the job center in Copenhagen. It's the capital of Denmark. So congratulations, Jens Siversen. We know a little bit more, Jens, because Jens has visited different Russian regions. He has been working with Ilo Moscow in Azerbaijan, but we never mentioned that Jens has a very important responsibility, like many of you. He's in charge of a job center in the capital of Denmark, and he explained a strategic view. You remember that Jens said, now we need the public employment service to be agile in adapting with new focus, and he identifies some focus that for probably in his context are very important, and say we have three big risks, and labor migration, labor market disengagement, when people give up to looking for job and stay at home, and skill mismatch. And also he recommended this taking decision in close monitoring of labor market, decision for job placement, but also for resource allocation, and for designing, that was a very important tool that the public employment service has, is a competency building and upgrading skill and qualification programs. Technical and vocational education, how we adapt, if we the public employment service contribute to reducing the skill mismatch. So thanks to all the participants, thanks to the international expert, Jen, Claire, Ruth, Helen, thanks to the participant, and also to Anna and Julia that help a lot in this innovative exercise of working group. Really, we are not expecting to have a big success in our first exercise of a working group, but was really important to show you the different possibilities that the Zoom platform could have. One of them is organizing this working group discussion. We will see how we can train you more so you can develop your own skill for using this platform. As mentioned at the beginning, conducting meeting, conducting discussion, and organizing a working group. It was a little bit challenging, even for me. It's the first time from one moment to another in my screen, we are not all you. Now you are back. I'm so happy to see you back again. And then we will have our next module, the module 4, partnership for building partnership for employment in the next session in 2 weeks more. I invite you, as usual, to check the chapter, to try with the checklist for self-assessment, and we will keep you in communication with our regular communication line. So all the best for you. Please keep safe and health, and good weekend. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.